Marvel Comics have tried their damnedest over the last decade or so to get Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, over as an important hero, but they just kind of did the same tropes that have been ruining every new character they've been introducing since then. This is the least important hero in the history of Marvel Comics, and I have proof of that. And here to talk to me about that is Doc. How you doing, buddy?
I'm wonderful, brother. Thanks for having me.
Like I said, I've got a couple of examples. We're going to talk about Fallen Friend, the death of Miss Marvel, and why this one doesn't hit quite as hard as that Superman epilogue they did after the death of Superman, which was actually an earned event. Let's put it that way. But we do know that Miss Marvel is coming back, which kind of undercuts the purpose of the book of Fallen Friend, but whatever. And it's coming back without an actual writer. Iman Vellani, breakout star of Miss Marvel on Disney Plus and the upcoming The Marvels, will have a new notch on her creative belt this fall. When Miss Marvel, the New Mutant, hits comic shop stands, the new 4-issue series will be co-written by Vellani and Sabir Pirzada. Miss Marvel, the New Mutant will be Vellani's first writing credit, but before she graced Marvel's screen, she was already putting in the work on the storytelling side of the film industry, participating in a selective Toronto Film Festival committee of up-and-coming youth. You know why Miss Marvel isn't important? Because when she died and they did the cash grab or whatever, and then when they announced what the big breakout series was, where you're going to introduce her as an actual mutant to kind of, I guess, create synergy between comic books and Disney Plus, you put Iman Vellani on it. She's not a star. People might know who she is because she was in the show, but that doesn't mean anybody wants to buy her comic books. If they cared about this character, an actual comic book writer would be writing the series.
If they actually cared about the series and had any real expectation that this thing would sell, they put a writer on it that people know, and they wouldn't just do stunt casting of a title. This screams desperation. This screams.
Well, Doc, this is what happened though. She went out and bought Fallen Friend and posed on Twitter with a picture, which is a big deal. That's the biggest celebrity that they could get to admit that they read Fallen Friend, the death of Miss Marvel.
Well, Benedict Cumberbatch picked up some Doctor Strange comics when he was filming the first movie. They didn't fucking sign him to write the goddamn comic book.
He's too busy. He's an actual movie star.
Yeah,
he has work.
People know who he is. People want to see him in things.
And he probably knows that he's not a goddamn comic book writer. Why take the gig?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I mean, hey, more power to this chick for
I'm not here to make fun of teenagers and run her down. No. I'm running Marvel down. It's not her fault.
I know, exactly. More power to this chick. She can go get your money, girl. Try to stay relevant in some way. You're not doing it through the show, so try to do it through, I guess, coming up with a backup career, because you don't have anybody that would actually sell this comic book in your Rolodex that could actually sell this fucking comic book that's an actual comic book writer. So
I don't think Alan Moore could do anything with Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel at this point to make anyone give a damn.
You could hire Grant Morrison and Brian Hitch to do this book, and it still won't fucking sell. That's what it comes down to. It's a character that nobody cares about. Her death went over with oh, okay. And now what?
Mostly a ho-hum. This is what Iman Vellani had to say about the book. I want to make it very, very clear that we are not retconning her Inhuman origin. That's a part of Kamala's identity that Marvel Editorial and myself would very much like to keep and protect. Our book will absolutely reflect all those core themes of identity that the Miss Marvel comics have consistently explored. Only now there's a whole new label that Kamala has to learn to accept. It's going to be pretty crazy. I don't really care that they keep exploring aspects of identity in the Miss Marvel comic book. I think that's why no one bought it.
It's ostensibly supposed to be a superhero book. That all it did was it was a YA coming of age book.
It's a validation book about how great she is.
Yeah. I mean, look, you even just had Fallen Friend that was just a validation book on how great she was and trying to get a character over that isn't over and won't be over. Nothing about this screams, I need to read it. And you're already confusing people with the goddamn title. You're saying it's not going to change her Inhumans origin, and then you're doing a book called Miss Marvel, the New Mutant. Bitch, is she a fucking Inhuman or a mutant? They're not the same thing.
Well, she's going to be both now because she's going to be reborn on Krakoa as a mutant before it's destroyed. You did mention Fallen Friend, the death of Miss Marvel that came out this week. I think we had G. Willow Wilson, we had Saladin Ahmed and Mark Waid writing this one. And this thing is, I don't know, it's really dull, I think is the best way to describe Fallen Friend, the death of Miss Marvel. I don't imagine a lot of people were buying this. Maybe there was some spec value because there are a bunch of channels that will tell you that even though this comic book will never be worth any money. We were going to do a full review of this stock, but obviously the other news came out, so we won't get into it as in depth as we would like to, which is probably a good thing because I don't even know what to say about this book as far as going in depth. But the first story is from G. Willow Wilson, and it's the close friends and family of Kamala Khan, going to her funeral. And I guess you get to learn about culture and the way that Muslims mourn death and celebrate life and all that kind of stuff. The art on this one is so bad that you almost can't, like when Wolverine walks in, you can't really tell it's him until they say Wolverine. And of course they have to have another cameo in there to make it somewhat interesting, but that didn't really work. It was just really fucking boring.
I mean, I get it. It's supposed to be a memorial issue, so it's a
The problem is, Doc, when they did this with Superman, there was so much stuff to talk about. Everyone had a story because Superman had impacted everyone at that point. Miss Marvel has never done that. There's nothing really to celebrate, and you can see it in the issue.
All it is a bunch of people coming in there to eulogize her without any sort of personal connection to it. It's just come in there to validate that, yes, she was a hero in the first place. And it rang incredibly hollow.
Yeah, and then we get the second story. I believe this is Mark Waid. I don't know why you would ever bring Mark Waid back to like a champion story. Thankfully, this is just a short story in this Fallen Friend book. And this thing it's not as bad as the G. Willow Wilson stuff, I think, but it ain't much better. And it's just the other champions coming in and talking about just how amazeballs this Kamala Khan was.
It was come in, validate Kamala, but holy shit, I got to do this for 15 pages. I don't have 15 pages worth of ways to talk about how Kamala was great. So after about 3, I'm just going to turn this into a Amadeus Cho and Viv Vision get into a fight and make a scene in the middle of a fucking funeral. That seems really weird.
Mark Waid never had a good handle on the champions. Like I said, I don't know why he would come back and embarrass himself.
He basically got that book almost canceled from the time of launch anyway. I don't understand where he was going with that. It's like he ran out of steam 2 pages in and just had to do something else, and none of it really had to do with Kamala except for Viv can turn on emotions and she cries a lot.
The last story is called Avenger from Saladin Ahmed. So obviously the Avengers show up, and there's this really, really stupid moment. Peter Parker as Spider-Man, stops a robbery or something. And then when he shows up as Peter Parker, he goes up to Kamala's parents and says, I always looked up to Kamala and she was my hero. They know this dude's in his 30s. Like, it's creepy, one, to say that to her parents because they don't know who he is and they're going to think it's weird. And number 2, it's really weird that Peter Parker would look up to a hero that never accomplished anything.
Yeah, it was obviously about trying to validate Kamala, but there was no good way for him to do it. All he had to do was just be like, hey, I knew your daughter and I respected her.
I'm very sorry for your loss. She was a gem to the world.
But no, he needs to go totally overblown and call her my hero. That just becomes super fucking weird and creepy. This was really weird. I mean, yeah, she was an Avenger for 15 minutes before she started the Champions, because all of the teen heroes, because Miles was on that team, Viv Vision was on that team. She threw a temper tantrum because she thought after they saved people, they should go and fix everything that got broken. And the Avengers were like, yeah, we're not engineers. We're not architects. We can't go rebuild buildings.
I blacked out for that portion of Marvel Comics, and now you're having to remind me of this stuff and why it doesn't even work in this stupid book.
Yeah, because it was the Mark Waid all new, all different Avengers. It failed, so he left Avengers to go do Champions with all the teen heroes that he really wanted to write in the first place.
If you wanted to show the world why Miss Marvel was important and special, I would say this last week wasn't the way to do it, Doc. They killed the character off in Amazing Spider-Man. Everyone said, whatever. They announced that they were doing Fallen Friend, The Death of Miss Marvel. Everyone was like, well, that seems like a strange choice. You deliver the comic book. It's supposed to be like, oh my goodness, Miss Marvel's gone. The same exact day you announce that there's a new series, Miss Marvel, the New Mutant from Iman Vellani, and everyone goes, oh, so you're doing the exact same thing that we knew that you were doing to begin with, but now you don't even have a comic book writer to write the book. So you don't even expect this thing to sell, and you have no expectation that this character could ever be important. And that's who this character is.
Yep. She is unimportant and not over. CB, whoever the hell the editor in the Avengers office is, you can't convince us that Miss Marvel's over. She's not over. Wait, does this make Iman Vellani now part of the X-Slack? Did she get invited?
Probably. Maybe.
Fuck. We're never getting rid of her either, are we?
If you need further proof that the character of Miss Marvel isn't over, well, you can just wait for the Marvels movie to come out and actually lose about $50 million. Or if you just look at the numbers of Miss Marvel on Disney Plus, it was the least watched show in the history of the MCU on Disney Plus. That's how much people don't care about this character, and this ain't helping. Definitely check this video out here. There's also a link in the video description.